Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest joining Dodgers Daily for the second time. Talked to him the offseason last year as well. One of the pitching coaches at Rancho, Cucamonga, Sean Coyne, joins Dodgers Daily. Sean, thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. Glad to be back, and exciting time for Dodgers as a whole in the system. So can't wait to go over the boys again.
Yeah. So first question, got to ask you about Tronky, Ramon Troncoso. Of course, the Dodgers went to a two-pitching coach system about 3 years ago. Tronky's awesome. So what's it like to work with him?
Yeah, Tronky's the man. As a coworker and just also now as like a friend off the field, I kind of think of us sometimes as like fire and ice, where, times during games or during the season, if guys aren't, progressing the way that I feel like they can, or we feel like they can, Tronky's always the one where he's the steady, calming voice that it always kind of like brings it back into perspective, kind of keeps me grounded, and has really took, and I mean, he didn't have to, but took kind of like a ownership, a little bit of like little developmental lessons for me as a coach, like as I've now been in the system for a couple of years now, just like little tidbits here and there, like, hey, you did this tonight. I thought you did a really good job handling this situation. Here's one way that you can do it differently, better. And coming from a guy that pitched in the big leagues and has been around the Dodgers for such a long time, I'm going to listen. Most of the time they've been invaluable lessons from Tronky, and I appreciate everything that he's, given to me, given to the org, given to the guys over the last 2 years together. But working with him is an absolute peach.
I wouldn't have believed that 104 existed until this year. The first guy, most people remember Edgardo Henriquez. The first guy actually to hit it was Ardo and Yean, and it was like back in May. I texted, or didn't text you, but I messaged you. I was like, is this like legit, or is this like a gun somewhere in the California League that's a little hot today? He said, no, this is legit.
Yeah. Yean can do some crazy things with the old number one. He lit it up. I mean, damn near every time he walked out there. But that I think it was like a Wednesday day game against Inland Empire was unbelievable. Every time Yean goes into the game, he's going to throw hard. But it was 0-2, 2 outs, bottom 9. I think it was like 5-2 or 5-3, so it was still a safe situation. And he just, all of a sudden we looked up and said 104, and we were like, oh my God.
Did you check it after the game just to make sure?
Just to make sure. Had to make sure. Because I knew if I was going to go tell him what he did, because I always, hyped him up, we'd have our little jokes throughout the season. But if I was going to go tell him that he hit 104, I had to make sure I was right. Made sure it was legit. So
yeah. I was like, I can't post this until I know this is 100%. I'm like, I really hope that Coyne responds to this with some confirmation, because I can't wait to tell Dodgers fans that Ardo and Yean just hit 104, but I can't do it until I get confirmation. So when he sent that message back, I was like, oh, yeah, let's go, baby.
Yeah, it was. I wish it was, a Friday night game with a giveaway, or, if Kershaw was in town and we had the stadium packed. But, nonetheless, it was still one of the crazier things I've ever seen on a baseball field in person.
So what was it like for you, like whenever Kershaw would come down, or like a Joe Kelly or somebody like that? Do you guys work with them, or do they have their own guys?
It's pretty surreal, just because, a guy like Kersh, even like Joe, been around the game a while. Even like when Bobby comes in, being here once Bobby was in the system and now he's up in the big leagues. It's like just surreal to like get around them and like watch their, if they're there with us for multiple days, just like watching their daily process, but especially like on game day, just kind of like watching that process unfold, watching the level of focus and preparation that they do to just, even for a low A rehab start, like they treat everything, what I would assume is the same in terms of their game preparation. But not really like working with them specifically. Like we always try and make sure and check in with them early. Just like, hey, what do you need from us today? Like try and make the day as, easy going and like seamless as possible. Obviously to say like they're at Dodger Stadium, but they're not, but it's kind of like, we don't want them to feel like we know nothing about them or we're not there to help them.
Sure.
because they're just in to get their work in and try and go back with the big boys and, go win a title. So we try and make that day as easygoing as possible. Whatever they need, Tronky and I try and give it to them. If they ask for help or ask us to watch something in their throw or their plyo drills, like we'll be there. We're on top of it. But most of the time it's just kind of like managing them, managing their day, make sure they have what they need so they can all they have to really worry about is going out on the mound and walking off in one piece and being healthy. That's kind of our biggest focus when guys come to us in Rancho. Is just like, can we make sure that they accomplish what they need for that day and that they leave healthy? If we can do both of those, like we did our jobs today.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go back to Ronaldo Yean because I love talking about Ronaldo Yean. So besides just the 104, which we all know that he can just throw the ball through a brick wall, right? Yep. Beyond that, what should Dodgers fans be excited about with him?
I think with Yean, I think the big thing that we had, especially when we got him for that brief stint in 2023, kind of like at the back quarter of the year in Rancho, to like the progress he made going into 2024. I think the biggest thing he kind of like took like a premium level of ownership in was just how he slowly started to bring the blinders in and like get ready for the game. Cause I mean, I think he realized pretty early that he was going to be pitching in the back end of games. And so did we. So it was like just getting him used to that, that process of bringing the blinders in. How do I get myself ready? To like go do what I need to do, whether it's close a game out or come in with runners on first and second in the 7th inning and 1 out. And like, I got to come in and shut the door. His level of preparation for how young he is, in terms of just pitching experience this year was like pretty remarkable. Like I was never worried about Yean being locked in and focused for whatever fiasco situation we threw him into.
Right.
Like I knew he was ready to take the ball. He was going to go throw it through a brick wall and do what he could to like get himself and get the team out of the inning. But I think as the year went on, the biggest thing was just like getting used to like the reliever workload, like the demand of being a high leverage guy, getting used to what it's like being like, hey, you did pitch today, but like, we got to be ready. It wasn't always back to back, but like, you got to be ready for a back to back just in case.
Yeah.
Cause that may not happen here in Rancho, but it might in Great Lakes and so far beyond. And like his ability and development that he had in his slider this year, having it be a threat in zone, having it be a wipeout 2-strike pitch. Like we all know he could probably just go 1, 2, 3 with number 1 against most hitters in low A, but it was like, how can we strike the slider? How can we make hitters think that the only thing that not worry about the only thing coming at them is 100? Like,
yeah, right.
Some sort of, wrinkle that is effective for us that will not only make the slider better, but also make, the crown jewel, the fastball, play that much more. So there were outings where, he'd come out of the gates, bully ball the first hitter with 3 fastballs, and then just strike a slider right down the middle.
Yeah.
Second batter. And those were the days where Tronky and I would look at each other like, okay, cool. The game's over.
Yeah.
If he's doing that, the game's over. Like
we're going in and out here in about 5 minutes, boys.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. So, and I think that is where that confidence, that aura as a back end guy, like really kind of thrived this year. And I think for, Dodger farm system fans, Dodger fans in general, like that guy is brewing into something that could be like pretty sweet by the time he reaches the big leagues, just even the steps he took from 23 to 24.
So you see a guy like Edgardo Henriquez, who has kind of a similar profile in terms of velo and maybe even the slider type deal. And then that guy ascends all the way to the major leagues, but Ronaldo Yean doesn't make it to high A. What's the difference between those two? I get that question a lot. I think Edgardo, Edgardo was off at an affiliate prior to his Tommy John surgery in Rancho. It was 2022. And, first season off TJ, come to Rancho, kind of get his feet wet, get the butterflies, the jitters of coming off of rehab, just get into games, be in a situation where a guy like Edgardo with so much talent will probably be successful, and then get him to the next level and kind of see where it takes us. But Edgardo, I think from there just was on a complete warpath to go as far as he could. And I think seeing the affiliate life before, being a little bit older and just kind of like ramrodding his way through it, what kind of gave him that ability to get all the way to the big leagues and on the playoff roster. Whereas like Yean, I think with
only having, 2 years stateside, not a ton of experience in games, to where it's like, is that risk of sending him up too early worth it?
Right.
Whereas or will he continue to learn valuable lessons in Rancho in low A? And obviously I don't want to, speak for the organization, but to me that would make sense.
Yeah.
If Yean is truly going to be a dominant back end guy, the steps and the processes that he learns along the way will greater benefit him at the end, versus if we try and rush it too soon. And now he has to learn at a level that he's maybe not equipped for yet.
Yeah.
Whereas Edgardo proved pretty much throughout the way. I know he had a couple hiccups in AAA, but nothing that was, out of the ordinary. But he just kind of proved along the way, all right, this guy can handle it. He's going to go here. Okay, he handled it again. We're going to put him here. Yeah. It just kind of took reign from there.
Yeah. So talk about Edgardo Henriquez, his stuff. You got him first, so tell us what you did with him, what your first thoughts of him when you saw him after the Tommy John, and how that process went in all of his year.
Yeah, I know I talked about Yean's aura, but if you want to talk about somebody having aura when they're on the mound, it's Edgardo. He's a human specimen. He's an elite human being, just as a person. So it's really funny when you get to watch him flip the switch and go into game mode, that you're this guy's terrifying, but that deep down it's oh no, he's actually a really good human being. But the diligence he had in his rehab program, vaulted him and his ability in 2024. So you saw everything he did in his rehab progression to get back to where he wanted to be and be above where he was before. And then when he got back into games, it was just, like I said earlier, it was a complete warpath. If you were in his way, you were getting removed out of the way.
Yeah.
He had one mission, and it was to go as far as he could go. And watching him prep and get ready for outings in Rancho, to seeing his face when we called him up, to seeing him jump to Tulsa, to OKC, and then ultimately watching his name come through in my email list that he got selected on the big league roster. It was a complete, just meteoric rise. But if you watched him on a day-to-day basis, it would make sense, because every day he prepared I'm going to the big leagues. I'm going to get there. It's just a matter of when. I'm not really going to worry about when that day comes, but that's how I'm going to work. And then he would go prove it out on the mound, and then he did it here, Great Lakes, Tulsa, and so on and so forth.
You want to know something amazing? As awesome as Yean and Henriquez are, both hit 104 this last year, they did not have a swinging strike percentage as high as Jose Rodriguez. What did you guys do to unlock this guy? This guy struck out everybody this year.
Yeah. Tibu, Jose Rodriguez, he did a lot of work with Ian Walsh and Rob Hill in Arizona in 2023 when he was in Arizona. And for the rookie ball season, we got him, I think, for a week or two at the end of the year in Rancho. So we didn't really see much of him. But over the offseason, he just went crazy, continued to build on the velo jump he had in 2023. And he kind of worked his way into that piggyback length relief, sometimes starter, most of the time kind of piggyback guy. But he's an absolute animal when it's he has a great mind for pitching. He has 3 pitches that he can throw for strikes. He's got the curveball when he needs it. And he just he understands the game at a really high level. So I think in Rancho, it was just his level of understanding for what he needed to do was above the level. And he was able to throw 4 pitches for strikes and just ripped apart low A lineups. But then he also learned how to make sure and refine that when he got to Great Lakes.
Yeah.
He didn't really miss a beat. It was okay, the chase sliders down and out of zone, out of hand, I got to start that a little bit more up and a little bit more middle and high A to make sure I'm generating the same swings that I did down in Rancho, but still getting the results that I need to get.
Yeah. Patrick Copen was absolutely awesome this year too. Super excited about him.
Yeah. Cope. I think I said this last time about Pete being one of my favorite call-ups of the season. And I think this year that went to Cope. Got him at the end of 23, exploded in our playoff game, was an absolute savage in his offseason program.
It was.
Put on God, I don't know, 20, 30 pounds of muscle. Like he looked like a defensive lineman when he came back to Arizona. And, he refined the slider. He came back with 5-6 pitches. When we took him out of Marshall, it was like he really just had the fastball and like kind of a slider that went that way. So he had all these brand new toys, 30 pounds bigger. And at the beginning of the year, it was just kind of like, what can we do with all of this? What can we do with all this stuff that you have? And once we all kind of see it, you kind of get the read of hitters. I kind of figure out how we can marry game plans together. Once we kind of like iron that out, it was just an absolute explosion.
It was.
The game he pitched after Kershaw, because Kershaw threw the first 3 innings, and then Cope came in behind him.
Hit 100, didn't he?
99.
99. Oh, you didn't get Cope to 100?
No, I did not.
Oh, man.
But
come on, Coyne.
Yeah, he's probably more upset about it than I am with how many 99s he hit this year. But that game was like the culminating like product of Patrick Copen just sitting 97 and 99, upper 80s sweepers, disgusting cutters, jamming, landing curveball. Like, it was a joke. Yeah. He just ramrodded it for 4 innings, and I don't think it was that long after that it was like, go, I've done what I can do. It's David's turn. Like, go get him.
Yeah. Tell you another guy that people need to pay attention to, a guy who has Blake Trinan type stuff. That's the way that I describe it. Cam Day, the way that ball turns left for him. I mean, it is sharp and it is nasty and it breaks a long way. As a matter of fact, when I watch him, I'm like, I don't even know how this guy throws strikes because his stuff breaks so much.
Yeah, Cam, I think, had the largest amount of learning this year in terms of just adjusting to pro ball. But when he got it and it started to click, Cam kind of like turned into a different dude. Mm-hmm. Early on in the year, it was just kind of similar to Cope. We have all these toys, we have all the stuff we can do, and it was like too much almost in the sense of like, well, I have so many options. I could just do this crazy idea. And it was like, well, now we just lost our 1-2 count. We're back to 2-2. We do it again, 3-2, and it just kind of snowballed on him. But I want to say the turning point was at some point late July, early August. He kind of flipped a switch mentally, flipped a switch in his pregame preparation. We kind of tweaked how we did our game plans with him, and he just took off. It was like every outing was 6 innings, unlimited amounts of ground balls, really reduced his level of hard contact. And I wouldn't have been shocked if he got promoted at the end of the year, kind of like Karros did at the end of 23, because he was kind of like on that trajectory. But I was really happy that he finished fully in Rancho, 100-inning season, and like learned a lot of valuable lessons along the way that I think are going to really, really set him up for the coming years of his, kind of ascent through the system.
Poster child for the kind of prospect pitcher that the Dodgers love. A guy who hadn't pitched a whole lot, so he has a pretty fresh arm, because Eric Swan, we're talking about, didn't really even pitch much in high school. His first year at Middle Tennessee State was COVID, and then he threw, I think, a couple of years there, got drafted. He's had a couple of injuries he's dealt with since he's been with the Dodgers. So this is a guy that really is just learning how to pitch. I know he's been playing some in the offseason. Another guy that's around 100 miles an hour with literally no ceiling. I mean, the ceiling is just limitless for this guy.
Yeah. Swanee is a generational arm talent.
Yeah.
Like, just there's no hiding it. He is an absolute generational arm talent. And, he had some hiccups throughout the year, little nagging things here and there that, we consistently tried to make sure that we got ahead of, but he just had some, he got bit by the injury bug a couple times this year. It's just unfortunate luck. It is what it is. But the momentum he built down the stretch in August and into the fall league was pretty insane. We kind of simplified some things. He already has a simple delivery in general that produces a piss load of power. Yeah. But just like the thought process around his throw, we simplified down a little bit. Kind of added a bigger slider instead of just the hard heater, the hard slider, the hard changeup. Like, everything for him was hard. So it's something that's a wrinkle. We tried a curveball for a really long time. And we just kind of were banging our heads into the wall with it. He was like, I used to throw a sweeper at Middle Tennessee. So we're like, all right, like,
Let's do it.
Let's see what we got. And he rolled it out the final week against Visalia, or it might have been a game or two before that. He just kind of pulled it out. Was like, I'm going to throw it in the game. And I was like, okay. And, you know, immediate success in 2-strike counts, immediate success early on because there's something that no one's seen. It's slower. It's his biggest moving pitch. And he had like elite comfort landing it. Like he had it previously in his college days, came back to it and just didn't lose the feel for it. And I think that raised the ceiling of his fastball. It raised the ceiling of the hard slider. It raised the ceiling of an already elite changeup. And it just made him that much better as such a raw product. And then he built that momentum, took it into the fall league, kept the simple approach, kept the simple focus, and just mowed through some really high-level hitters. So seeing him get to pitch in that fall league all-star game, have a lot of success, was like really rewarding for me as his coach this year, seeing all the crap that he went through with all the injuries, getting a chance to go to the fall league and like really having some like helium-like momentum going into 2025 is pretty exciting for a guy like that.
It is. Another guy that's very exciting, a young lefty out of Duke who is finally healthy. Didn't really get let off the leash a whole lot last year. I know he had a couple of really nice outings where you guys pulled him, where maybe this next year when he's further away from his Tommy John, you might let him go a little bit longer. But Luke Fox is who we're talking about. Super excited about him. So can you talk about the young lefty out of Duke?
Yeah, Foxy, you know, heater, kind of like slurve, like breaking ball, cutter, changeup. He's maybe the smartest kid I've ever coached. Shocker coming from Duke. His level of attention to detail, feel with his throw, understanding of the game, like his mind works at an extremely high level. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, how do we harness this into like actionable items that can make us better? Because sometimes he'd spin down the rabbit hole and it's just like, no, Foxy, come back. Like you're going too far. But watching him kind of like just get his feet wet, you know, even in the short outings, you know, he had some really, really flash ones where it's like, okay, when you're doing this for 5-6 innings, like this is going to be something sweet. But his ability to bounce back, learn from game to game, learn from mistakes, but also learn from like good things that he did and how he could continue to develop them was like really refreshing to see at, you know, the lowest level of affiliate ball, to where it's like, okay, if you keep this same kind of mindset, same mentality as like a growth perspective while also pushing yourself to get better, like the sky's the limit for Foxy. You know, I think we ran into some times where the fastball command wasn't where all of us wanted it to be. And he just immediately was like, all right, leave me alone for 3 days. I'm going to lock in on it. I'll see you on bullpen day. And he'd come back and it would just be locked in. And it's like, okay, like, sweet, cool. What did you do? So I know to refer to this next time we run down this rabbit hole. But he's a very, very exciting lefty for us. I'm really, really, really stoked to see what his first full season, less of a leash, kind of with some learning under his belt, what that entails, what that looks like.
Speaking about exciting lefties that came to you out of college, Wyatt Crow. This guy about halfway through started really, you talk about helium. I mean, he got on that helium about halfway through the season and really just started building all that momentum.
Yeah, Crow is just flat out nasty.
Yeah.
He handled his rehab like a champ, was, you know, kind of on the high of highs at Florida State, missed that back end of his draft year. And it's like, all right, like what can we do to get you back to peak Wyatt Crow? What can we do to get that guy that you want back, that we want? How can we do it together? And he just, if you want to talk about gamer and savage when he's pitching, like it's Wyatt. Like he is an absolute dog when it's game day. If he feels terrible or nothing feels right, like you'll never get it out of him. You won't know because he's like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm pitching, so I have to figure it out. Like I'm just going to ram my head. I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to get it done. And I think that's like an invaluable trait to Wyatt, that it's like he will problem solve his way through it if he doesn't have his best stuff. But the flip side is when he does have his best stuff, it's pretty freaking electric.
Yeah.
Like the bowling ball sinker, the two versions of the slider. He's got a little one that's a little firmer and like a little bit shorter and depthy, and then he's got the big sweeper. The changeup's disgusting, and he just flat out knows how to pitch. And combining that with his mentality, like it was no surprise to me that he ripped through the Cal League, and I said goodbye to him after like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Just like, you're not going to be here very long.
Yeah, not very fun as a lefty to try to hit off him.
No, I can't imagine the numbers on it this year were comfortable or good for the hitters.
Or Garrett McDaniels. Nobody has nastier stuff than him.
Yeah, Garrett is, I had the fortune of having Garrett over 3 different seasons, 2022 in Arizona, back end of 23, and then front end of this year. And watching his development kind of in a lot of different roles, coming out of TJ in 22, reliever in 23, starter in 24, back to the bullpen. Like, he's been thrown every situation in the book, but he takes it in stride and just dogs his way through it. Like, his mentality pitching, similar to Crow. And the angle he creates, the big north-south throw with a lot of east-west moving pitches with the hammer curveball, the sinker's insane left on left, the slider, people just can't see it. Like, I would imagine it has some sort of deception with this throw, the high angle, shorter extension, but people just flat out don't see it. And he really took off kind of at the back end of his starter tenure in Rancho, and then we kind of made the decision as an org to put him back in the bullpen, sent him on his merry way to Great Lakes, and it was just like, that's it. Like, that's Garrett McDaniels. That's a guy that could, get to that Jack Dreyer lefty through the reliever and just blow his way up to the 40. Because when Garrett's dialed, and most of the time he's not, you can't square him up. It's a lot of pitches that move in the zone. He can get his swing and miss. He can take his chances, produce a piss load of weak contact, and just, his development over the last 3 years has been really, really, really fun to watch.
Made it all the way up to Double-A. I got to see him, and the Double-A hitters, they were as clueless as the Low-A hitters. That's just how dominant his stuff is. Hey, something you hit on right there. In today's day and age of metrics, and the Dodgers use all the toys and the Rapsodos and the TrackMan to measure all these statistics as far as extension and all this stuff goes. So you mentioned that Garrett McDaniels doesn't have great extension. That doesn't mean that that can't also be a plus for you, because the shorter the extension, the nastier the break of your breaking pitches, right? I mean, he seems to have mastered that side of it.
Yeah, it's not – obviously everyone in the world would love to have Tyler Glasnow extension, reach the ball, feel like you're placing it on top of home plate. But, I mean, we've even seen it with guys in our work, like Robleski doesn't have crazy high extension, but his ability to pound the strike zone, throw multiple pitches, make you confused as what's happening because he has so many weapons. It's just kind of the same thing with Garrett. Like, it's just like, okay, this is what you have. Like, how can we maximize it? How can we turn this into our favor to where it's still a problem for the hitters? Even though the extension piece of your throw might be a subtle advantage for them, but how can we knock it back in our favor? Like, what can we do in terms of our attack plan, our arsenals, our this, our that, to get the advantage back on our side of the ball, and then now we just go execute it. And I think Garrett's kind of turned into the poster child of, like, I know what I do best, and I'm just going to out-execute you with my strengths. And he does it at a very, very high level. Yeah,
Alex Makarowicz out of Northwestern State University. Very talented young man. He's another guy that I think as he goes along, he's going to be an uppers 90s guy as far as a guy that can touch that height. Probably is going to touch 100 at some point in his career. That is not an exaggeration. I think he's actually been up to 99. Mm-hmm. Obviously a guy that, and that's a lot of these guys at the younger levels or the lower levels, got to master the strike zone, right? But Alex Makarowicz is very talented.
Yes, very. I mean, he's, in that same kind of like Swan bucket, unbelievable arm talent.
Yes.
Just
great dude too.
Absolute crown jewel fastball, elite human, like unreal locker room guy. Like, just, he's like outside of baseball, like he's one of the guys I got really close with this year. Was super excited to see him get to the fall league. But yeah, to your point, I think when Makarowicz got to us in Rancho, it was a lot of external factors coming in. He really made some headway in instructs in 2023, and he kind of had a little injury in spring training that delayed him getting to Rancho, delayed him getting his feet wet out at the affiliate. So when he got there, it was like he saw Cope dominate on this day and so dominate. So it's like, oh, I got to come in and kind of be that same guy. And it was just like, no, you just got to do you. Like, we gotta do what's best for you. You don't have to be this guy or be that guy. So once we kind of like simplified our, game preparation process, simplified his plan, because, it was like, well, how do I use the slider? How do I use the curveball? Where's the best spots to put my fastball? And it was kind of like slowly checking all of those boxes. So when he went out and pitched, it wasn't like a deer in the headlights of like, well, I have all these toys, but what do I do? It was like slowly start to paint the picture of like, this is what you can do. This is what you're extremely talented at. Let's just slowly start to refine those things before we start trying to get crazy and have these super, super in-depth, plans for hitters and things like that. It's like, let's get in the box because you have some of the best stuff on this pitching staff when it is in the box.
Yeah.
Let's assault that as best as we can, and we will refine things as it goes along. And I think we saw some flash outings. I think he had one outing against San Jose at the end of the year that was like 3 or 4 innings, 7 punch outs, minimal walks. And it was just like, there it is. Like, if we can bottle this outing up and lodge it into the front of our brain, like, we're going to be okay. If we can repeat this and like, at least like the process around that outing, we're going to be okay. We're going to make some strides.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Rubeck in the sense that his stuff is so nasty that the guys just never hit it like the first time he throws it up there. So he never throws like a one pitch out. And so he's always having to throw 3 strikes for every batter. So that obviously makes it harder to stay in the strike zone, gives you a better chance at walking guys because you're never getting that first pitch out.
Yeah, his stuff is really hard to put back towards him. Like, it's quite challenging. So I think a lot of our focuses, a lot of our talks were around like, how can we make stuff look like it's something that they want to swing at? Because if we generate swings, it's still going to be really hard for them to put it forwards, but we have a better chance if they're swinging. So our focus, our mindset was just around like, how can I get the bat off of their shoulder? If I do that, I'm going to win because they're either going to miss it, they're going to foul it off, or we might get a ball put in play. So if we get those things, if we get those outcomes over and over and over again, we stay out of the walk column, we stay out of free 90s, and we're probably going to get swing and miss along the way.
Yeah. Anyway, did you ever get to see Sheamus Barrett pitch there at Loyola Marymount?
Not at LMU, no. I did not, fortunately.
Yeah, what'd you think when you saw this big 6'7" dude walking in, and then the splitter?
His first outing, I got pretty excited. Because we were trying to make a playoff push at the end. A lot of our guys at that point have been called up to Great Lakes. So it's kind of like, all right, how are we going to piece this together? But then when Sheamus and that wave and Shaw, Aiden Fuller, like all those guys came up, Sheamus had his first outing and he gets through, the top half of the bottom, because we were at Visalia. So it was the bottom half of like the 7th or something along those lines. And he comes into the dugout, stone faced, locked in, sat down with him, kind of went over the hitters. I'm like, what do you want to do? And he was just like, well, what do I need to do? I'm like, okay, well, if you just do X, Y, and Z to these 3 guys, like, we'll be in a good spot. And he got put in kind of a weird situation. We had like a tying run or go-ahead run on second, runner at third, 2 outs, take a mound visit with him. And it was just like, hey, if you do this pitch to this pitch to this pitch and you execute, you're going to strike him out and everything's going to be fine. And he's just like, that's it? I'm like, yeah, that's it. You're fine. He's like, oh, okay. And it was like elite heater at the top, splitter down for like swing and miss, splitter foul ball, right back up to the fastball, sat him down, came back to the dugout. He was like, hey, thanks for doing that. I'm like, you're the one that did it, big guy. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
But he's a savage. His time in Rancho was very, very productive, I would say. He didn't, get a crazy amount of innings and appearances, but I think he did what he needed to do to try and give himself a chance to just open up in Great Lakes next season. I think he's talented enough. I think he's mentally prepared enough. He's got enough weapons, and I think he can do it. So,
got a chance to see Evan Shaw at KU at Globe Life Field in the Big 12 tournament last year when he was shoving against K-State. He was fantastic. Mm-hmm. One thing that was really, really just kind of stuck out about him was that his breaking pitch, it's like a Frisbee. It's like it goes straight sideways, and you're like, wow, because most guys have that north-south swing plane. They have a lot of tilt in their barrel and all that. And so I'm thinking, man, for these modern day swings, that right there is perfect, right?
Yeah, Evan is. I never worried about Evan. Like I had zero worries when he showed up to Rancho. I could just see him go about his, daily business, his prep, his catch play, his throwing. I was like, yeah, this guy went to a locked-in D1 college. Like I don't need to. He's good. Fill in the rough edges and things like that, the day-to-day stuff. But general process and things that he did, it was just like you have it locked in. Like you're dialed in all facets. You come to work every day. You do what you need to do to get ready for the game. Whatever situation you get handed in the game, you're prepared for. You're ready to execute. And he just went out and did it. I think that he only had one, I think, blip outing, very last day of the year, short end of the stick. I think we threw 9 relievers. He was the 9th one. But besides the point, he, similar story to Sheamus. Like first game, I think in San Jose, went 2 innings, 10 pitches, just like constant weak contact, sinkers down. And it was funny because before we went to San Jose, Tronky was like, Coyne, do you ever get this feeling that you know something about someone, but you have no idea if you're right? And I was like, oh, maybe. Sometimes he's like, well, I think Evan Shaw's going to be pretty good. And I was like, what makes you say that? He's like, I don't know. Just like him walking around. I don't know. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
We were like, okay. And then we throw him in San Jose, middle of the game, 2 shutouts, 6 up, 6 down, 10 pitches. And we kind of looked at each other and went, I guess this guy's good. All right.
Yes, he absolutely threw 2 no-hitters in high school. Okay, Gabe Emmett, who has been one of the better pitchers for Rancho the last couple of years, didn't hear quite as much from him last year. Tell us where Gabe's at.
Yeah, Gabe just kind of battled through a lot of nagging, lingering, small injuries that kind of just piled up on each other to a point where it was kind of like, what good are we doing going out every day and pitching if we can't pitch to, at least close to max capability of who you are. So it was a lot of fighting that through this year, not being able to do the things that we're accustomed to seeing him doing, and just trying to get his body right to try and get back to that version. I think as the year went on, it took a toll on him pretty good, that it was kind of I need to perform and get myself out of here, but his body just wouldn't agree with it. So it was from the last update I saw of him or heard about him, he's doing well. Body's feeling better. Obviously, he's in the thick of his off season. So I'm hoping and really hopeful that, he can kind of get back on track, just get his body health in check and give himself a chance to do what he did. What month was that? June of 2023. And just kind of string that version of himself together over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yean Gonzalez, 96, 97 last year, and had at least 2 or 3 stretches where it's wow, he's very dominant. So I would imagine it's the consistency for him. Yeah.
JoJo, he didn't pitch at all in 2023. Well, competitively, he pitched in instructs.
Right.
But missed all of 2023, came to Rancho, and was immediately our resident fireman. It was just uh-oh, we're in a bad situation in the 5th inning. Yean, can you go put out the fire? And most of the time he did. And those moments early on in the year were huge for him because he lost that 2023 season.
Mm-hmm.
We got thrown all this crap at him left and right every time he went in the game. So it's he just had to face so much, and he has the weapons. It was just kind of similar theme that a lot of guys we've been talking about during this is just figuring out when's the right time for this kind of attack plan. When can I do this? When can I do this? What do I need out of this situation? And how am I just going to go do it? I have the stuff. I just have to kind of process what's going on around me, what's in front of me. Okay, now go execute, and I can live with the results from there. But he, his preparation, from the moment he walked into the bullpen at the beginning of the year, I thought he prepared the best every day because he didn't know what part of the lineup he was going to go in, what situation, what inning. So when I would drop the binder off at the beginning of the game, he would just grab it while the starter was warming up and just slowly kind of chew through, okay, what can I do? What's available to me? What maybe aren't some good ideas? So if I get put in a situation, I've already kind of worked myself through it. Now it's I just have to acknowledge what's around me and then go do it. And when he was on, man, it was something else. He had a 3-inning outing against Inland Empire that I want to say he had 5 or 6 punch outs, almost an immaculate inning. Like when he's on, he's got some diabolical stuff out of the bullpen, and like that shorter kind of like Gavin Stone stature that just explodes out of his hand. Got the 4-seam sinker, changeup, slider. And it's like he just has weapons that he could just go deploy when he's on. And it's pretty fun to watch because he's got a lot of fire in him. So it's like watching him go out and compete and get out of those big situations was always super sweet to see out of him.
So it's always fun for you because not only do you get the college call-ups after they get drafted, not necessarily college, but the amateur guys, usually it's college guys because they're old enough to be able to handle the Rancho environment. Mm-hmm. But not only do you get those guys that get drafted, but then you get just a whole lot of guys from the complex after the complex season is over. So you're dealing with a constant influx of new pitchers like Sammy Sanchez, Marco Corto, Pedro Santillan, Sean Leenan, Felix Cabrera, Christian Zazueta. So kind of talk about those guys that kind of got influxed into you.
Yeah, I think the biggest contributors out of that list were definitely Leenan and Zazueta, both starters that kind of ran their way through the rookie ball kind of scene. Both very, very young, extremely talented, really good strike throwers. And like a lot of those guys that come up from the complex, it's more building on what they already did well in the complex league and just like refining it, right? I mean, it's the whole process of the minor leagues, but it's like most of them, right when they get there, are like, I'm just going to do the same things I did in rookie ball. And it's like that little learning curve of like, mostly yes, but not entirely. Like we got to, shore up a couple things here, shore up a couple things there. The process is different. The day-to-day grind is different. And, bus trips, new locker rooms, new bullpens, places you've never been before. It's not our perfectly manicured complex grounds all the time.
Right.
But no, I mean, those guys that all came up this year, like most of them landed on their feet eventually, but I think for a lot of them, since it was a younger group that came up, was very productive for them going forward. Like a lot of them had to learn
big jump.
Yeah, they had to learn very quickly, but the guys that got it, like they're going to be set up for 2025. Like Zazueta got clocked in the face for a month in Rancho, couldn't land on his feet. He'd have close to a really, really good outing, and then it would just kind of go to shambles. And then I want to say it was the beginning of August. He had like a 6-week stretch to end the season that was completely insane. He really took everything that he learned in the first month and a half in Rancho, and it all just kind of clicked for the final 6 weeks. And it was every time Zaz went out, it's like, we're going to get a bunch of strikes. We're going to get nasty changeups. We're going to get a guy that's going to go dog it up for 5 innings. And then we're just going to try and keep building that momentum as the season goes along. Yeah.
One guy that I'm super excited about, and he is super confident, had a chance to talk to him, just a wonderful young man, Noah Roon, and really cool because he's a sidearm guy, so he provides a lot of uniqueness.
100%. Noah got to us shortly after the draft. I think this was the first or second sidearm guy that I had as, direct being able to work with. So really it was just asking him a lot of questions just because, it's like, hey, I haven't worked with a lot of guys that throw like you before. Like, I want to pick your brain and kind of hear how you think about your throw, what you think is important, the things that you like to do on a day-to-day basis. And then we'll kind of, Tronky and I, with our creative minds, will try and help, build things around it to kind of build the engine and get your floor a little bit higher. But Noah added a different wrinkle in our bullpen last year at the end of the year, which was crucial for us kind of coming down the stretch into the playoffs. But he's a classic, college reliever. Will be ready to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday if you let him. And he took that mentality right into pro ball and kind of benefited him. Had a little bit of a rocky start the first couple outings, just kind of getting his feet wet. But once he settled in, dude, he took off right away. It was really, really cool to see.
He wants to be really good at baseball, no doubt about it, but he really, really, really wants to be good at golf, doesn't he?
Yeah, we had a few guys last year that like to try and get out on the links on our off days on Mondays. So
awesome. Shoemaker, man, you mentioned getting to work with Ramon Troncoso, which is awesome because he played the major leagues, and he's just a great dude. Shoemaker, nobody better to manage that level of baseball than John Shoemaker. Talk about him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that sentiment more than Shu, getting to work with Shu for the last 2 years has been really, I think, really, really good for my overall development as a coach, especially in pro ball. I got to be around Bobby Cuellar in 2022, and then having Shu the last 2 years, it's like I've had a handful of guys around me day to day that have seen everything in the game. I've seen it 10 times, 20 times, and just the wisdom that he provides me as a coach, calming factor, the push to always continue to give the best you can no matter what you're feeling, what's going on off the field, because it's our job to make sure that the guys are prepared. It's our job to make sure that they get to the next level and are ready to go do it. So watching his just like unwavering commitment to being the leader in the clubhouse, the first guy on the field, the first guy in his uniform, first guy getting guys out for early work, like watching that on a day-to-day basis, it's like, okay, I can do more. Like if Shu's out there busting his tail every single day, you don't hear a negative word from him. It's like, yeah, you can do more. You can do it. Yeah. So he's been a great role model, just to like watch work and also just have those, pitching coach to manager talks in the manager's office after games, kind of digesting what happened. How could I get better? How could our communication get better? And going through that with him has always been great.
Rumor has it is he wears his uniform 24 hours a day.
Close. I think it's close. There aren't many times I see him out of it, but it's close to 24.
Yeah. Hey, I want to thank your alma mater, Westmont. They sent Oklahoma State a really nice arm this last year, Sean Youngerman.
Yes, they did.
I'm sure you're familiar with them. Hey, Westmont gonna be any good this year?
They should. They moved to Division II last year.
Oh, nice.
They're now in the Pac West Conference.
Nice.
Like Point Loma Nazarene, Azusa Pacific, kind of all those schools. But they just got a new head coach again.
Okay.
Paul Spagdis used to be at APU, because I know their head coach, Tyler Torre, just went to Pepperdine. So they got another coaching change, but they should be, from what I've heard about Spaggy, is they're going to hit. They're going to hit. So, yeah, Youngerman, I was excited for him. I recruited him out of Chaminade. So
nice. Okay.
I know Youngerman very well.
Oh, very nice. I might reach out to him and let him know. I got a link there. See if you might want to come on. I got another site called O State Daily. See if you might want to come on and talk for there. Do they have lights yet?
No, Westmont does not have lights.
That's a great college to go to and play baseball.
Yes.
With no lights, that's like the king of all time right there. Got to go home when it's dark, right?
They will not. I don't think they're ever going to win that battle, but I know they just upgraded all their stands. They got a brand new press box. What else did they do? I think they're finally getting TrackMan installed. They're going crazy. I'm pissed because it's when I left, but I've been asking for this for 7 years, but whatever, guys.
I'll never forget the Bailey Reed story where it was getting dark and his brother was throwing like 98 to him, and nobody could see it, including him, and it was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but no, they're still kicking down there. I still talk to some of the guys over there, some of the coaches over there. It's good to keep tabs and relationships with all those guys for the 5.5, 6 years I got to spend over there.
Sean Coyne, you are way too gracious to Dodgers Daily, man. You always respond every time I have a question about any of these young guys that come up to Rancho. So thank you so much for that. I've taken a lot of your time today, took a lot of your time last year whenever we talked. So again, too gracious. Thank you so much, Sean Coyne.
Yeah, no, anytime. Always appreciate coming on and appreciate what you do and all you guys at Dodger Daily do for our guys in the system, getting the word out, getting info to Dodger fans. Always happy to kind of boost our guys up whenever I can. So doing that on your platform is always a pleasure.